Hi guys, it's either welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Kiosha. I am a lawyer that doesn't practice. I'm a mid-level government bureaucrat, and I'm just someone who moonlights in creativity. And today I am going to be reviewing the 7th episode of Married at First Sight Houston. I have been complaining about things being boring. Things are starting to heat up. Things are getting very interesting. So I'm going to do this like I do every episode. I'm going to go through each couple, and then I'm going to kind of go through if there's anything that I had written down for like what I saw for the next episode. But I'm going to go through each couple. I may not go through Michaela and Zack that thoroughly, only because they deserve their own video. So that will be coming soon. But let's jump into it. So the first couple that came on the screen was Rachel and Jose. And this is basically like, this week for the couples was move-in day and them getting settled and attempting to get used to living together. So, like I said, first couple was Rachel and Jose. It opens up, I'm skipping past the small stuff, but it essentially opens up with Rachel visiting Jose's house. It opens up with Rachel visiting Jose's house. And just like a side random comment, his house kind of looked like an older person's house, like his house. I don't know if it matched his personality or maybe it did. I don't know. But it just kind of looked like an older person stayed there. He was just kind of walking her around. He was really proud of everything in his house, and he would also be like, yeah, this is my so-and-so. Do you have a so-and-so like this? This is my so-and-so. Do you have one like this? He showed her his sectional, right? A sectional. It's like, yeah, here's my sectional. Is your couch better than this? It was just like you're proud of your space, but you're being a bit extra, okay? Like, tone it down a little bit. Like, your place is cool. It's great that you have a home, but you know, it's not exactly giving what it was supposed to give, but it's nice that you have your own home, right? And like I said, he was just being extra, talking and talking and talking, and he does that, right? That seems to be part of his personality. He just kind of rambles. They get to the part of the tour where Rachel comes across his budget board. And he was like, oh yeah, you said you have something like this, right? And she was like, absolutely not. I have nothing like this. The next part for this couple is they show Jose going to Rachel's place. And as soon as he walks in, right? And honestly, like objectively, like Rachel had a pretty cute apartment. But he walks in and right away goes, he saw some jugs by the door, the trash can. He's like, what are all these jugs? Like, are you a hoarder or something? And so from the beginning of the tour, he was just being very nitpicky. Very nitpicky, and I mean, was it judgy? I don't know, but kind of like he was definitely picking on her about the spot and just generally being maybe a bit more negative than really what the situation called for. Because Rachel's main thing was, you know, she wanted to show him that, you know, she's tidy. I can keep a place that's organized. And like I said, the first thing he said when he walked in was like, are you a hoarder or something? Like I said, it was just nothing that she could really do that impressed him. Like, she showed him all of her pencils that she had collected from her travels. And he was like, do you really need all of these? Are we gonna keep all of these? He was just being super extra, like, Rachel can keep her fucking pencils. You know, she can keep her pencils. Like, what is happening? You can't control every little aspect of y'all's lives together. And if you try to, Rachel is going to run from you, okay? Like, he was really being a lot. And so Pastor Cal came to visit which wasn't a highlight of the episode. I think for most of the couples, Pastor Cal visiting was a highlight. And so they're clearly still in the honeymoon space. They have started discussing things, but I think they both have kind of been dismissing the things that kind of annoy one another about each other. Pastor Cal, of course, asked what worried them. And of course, the finance thing came up. I think Rachel brought it up initially. Rachel brought up an example of like wanting to go to Europe. And how they had a conversation earlier, because she was basically saying like, I'm feeling like I want to go to Europe next month. And Jose was like, yeah, but your car's kind of beat up and it's seen better days. So we should probably put money towards that. Like, he was being really, really overbearing just in regards to a trip. And they had only been married, what, 7 or 8 days at that point. So that is the conversation that came up with Pastor Cal. So Rachel told him how she had mentioned Europe and how Jose had mentioned that her car needed to be fixed, right? And you could kind of tell that Jose wanted to get worked up over this whole thing. But Pastor Cal basically broke it down like this. Like, Pastor Cal was like, Jose, you're science. Rachel, she is art. And Rachel is going to balance you in the artistic sense. And she's going to enrich your life and make sure you have experiences and make sure you have a good time. And for Rachel, Jose is your science. So he's going to balance you in a way that kind of brings you back down to earth, kind of brings down some of the lofty ideals, and just kind of balances things out with regards to, you know, finances and just life in general. So I thought that was like really profound of him to say, because I absolutely agreed. And then Pastor Cal asked him about sex. And I couldn't tell, I should have went back and watched it, but I couldn't tell if they said they had sex. I don't think they have. But Rachel was just basically like, she's scared and it, you know, what if it's too easy? Like, it's easy now to have sex, but what if that complicates things? And basically Pastor Cal just told them to go for it, right? And so that's pretty much it for them. There wasn't like a lot of back and forth. It was just mainly Jose being really annoying and really overbearing. So let's move on to Bao and Johnny. There were absolutely more spicy moments, and this couple is not going to make it, in my humble opinion. But it opens up, the producers are so petty, because while they were on the plane, like, they really focused on her asleep and snoring. Like, they dropped out all of the other background sound and they just amplified like the sound of her snoring. Y'all are so petty. And I wrote down Pepe Le Pew for Bao. I don't know if y'all knew of Pepe Le Pew, but he was like this super creepy skunk or something, like almost kind of perverted-ish, and he stunk. And that reminds me of Bao. But so they went to Johnny's apartment. That's kind of how it really opens. They go to Johnny's apartment just to kind of pack up his stuff and for her to see how he lives. And she immediately started critiquing the hell out of his apartment. And I you know, we're getting to see more of her personality. And I won't say I didn't like it, but I was taken aback. I was definitely taken aback. It was so funny because at that same time she was critiquing it, Johnny literally says Bao takes the fun out of things. And I can really see that. Like, I'm really starting to see that Bao can have her moments, but she's also a bit of a Debbie Downer. And that may just be because she's like an overthinker and she's overly critical. But I can see why he said that. So while they were in the apartment, it came up like, what was one thing that Johnny needs from his housemate? And basically his non-negotiable was someone who showers, someone who cleans their body, someone who stands underwater and combines soap and washes their body. And Bao straight up said, like, she wasn't going to do it. And in that moment, you could tell that something inside Johnny broke. And that's kind of take me to like the next part of the episode for them. But he's over it. You can see it. Something changed in Johnny's eyes, and I think he is absolutely over Bao. I think he's probably going to try his best to make it through and try his best to force himself to kind of be into her, but I think he's over it. Johnny also told Bao that he needed a couple of days. With everything that had happened over the past couple of days, he said that he needed a bit of time to figure out his feelings, to process everything, and then to kind of come back fresh. And in a dating situation, I absolutely would understand that. And I also understand him needing a bit of space, but at the same time, like, they're married. And so if you need a couple of days, if you need a little bit of space, you know, there's the second bedroom. Instead of going to your house, I could get what Bao was saying in that situation. Like, instead of literally driving to your house and running away, you know, stay in the situation, but just separate yourself in another room. And so I kind of agree with her in that respect. Like, when things get tough, is Johnny just going to run back home? And it seems like it. And honestly, in this case, it's not right, but I can't say that I blame Johnny either. Like, you don't even shower. I wouldn't want to be around you either. You stink. Stink yourself. And so the next day it showed him, he had popped back up. I think he stayed at his house just for like one night or so. But you could tell he came back and he's trying. He was trying really to, you know, be chipper and really trying to engage with Bao. And so I will give him credit for that. And he did come back after he cleared his head and he said, you know, this is marriage. And this isn't something that you could just walk away from. So I like that he realized that, like, he came to that realization without Bao having to be like, basically without Bao having to say that. He came to the realization on his own. And so they get to kind of like, you know, the conversation about sharing the bed, and, you know, that was a little awkward. And I just think the couple, I think they're regressing. They were going in a good direction initially during the honeymoon, but after a lot of the things started to come out, particularly the shower thing, after a lot of things started to come out, they've become more and more awkward, right? I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I've absolutely noticed that. And then it cuts to Johnny visiting Bao's house. And so yeah, everything just kind of started to run together, honestly, with them at that point, because that's not really the juicy part. But yeah, the lightsaber fight was really cute. Like, I live for moments like that. And then Pastor Cal shows up. And they all start talking, and Bao brings up the fact that, you know, she feels like she's really been trying to meet what Johnny said that he needs. So she's really kicked up the physical touching and initiating contact. And she feels like he doesn't do any of that. He just takes whatever it is that she gives, but he never initiates, which kind of makes her feel unattractive. And I can absolutely understand that. I have to make the first move on you every time a move is made, or I have to kiss you first, or I have to, you know, initiate sex first. That starts to kind of make you feel unattractive. So I absolutely understand that. And Pastor Cal was like, why is that, Johnny? Why do you find Bao unattractive? And it was really hard for Johnny to actually verbalize or to answer Pastor Cal's question. But he finally was able to kind of push through it and spit it out. And he essentially said that, you know, when Bao gets really happy or really excited, she gets kind of giddy. And he described it as childlike. And they showed a couple of clips where she was really excited and happy. And she did kind of like, she did kind of do that, right? And so she was really hurt by that. You could tell that kind of took the wind out of her. And who wouldn't be hurt if your husband told you that they were not attracted to you? I can get that. And I can also kind of get Johnny. Like, I can get something happening and consistently happening that turns you off. Whether or not that's an excuse or not, I'm going to talk about that a little later. But you can't really fake attraction, can you? I think in situations like this, where you can fall in love with someone that you are unattracted to, but normally that involves you falling in love with their personality, which leads to that attraction, or falling in like with their personality, which leads to that attraction. And while I think Bao is objectively a nice woman, I don't think Johnny is falling in love with her personality or even in like with her personality. He actually seems repulsed. So that was just a really interesting part of the episode. And Pastor Cal took a moment to kind of reassure Bao, like, hey, listen, this is who you are. Be who you are. This is not your problem. This is Johnny's problem. This is Johnny's problem. And I do agree, you know, the girl can't help that she has these nervous tics. That's what I'm guessing they are, nervous tics. And you know, Johnny, you are married, so, you know, figure it out. Maybe pull the experts to the side and ask them how you can get past this. But the deeper thing for me is I don't think that's it by itself. I don't think her being giddy is the only reason why you are unattracted to her. I think you were unattracted to her because it came out that she does not shower. And I think maybe you didn't really want to hurt her feelings, so you just kind of threw that out there. Yes, it was probably something that was true, but you could see the moment when she basically told him that she's not going to shower like that, because they talked about non-negotiables, and you could just see his soul, his spirit leave his body. He was done. He was done. Any attraction that was there, it was just gone. And I absolutely understand that. I'm not going to date anybody that showers once or twice a week, let alone be married to them. And it's just like they put him in this impossible situation. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's all of the things, but like she also doesn't shower. So like, what the hell am I supposed to do? What do y'all expect from me? So like I said, I get both sides. I do not think they're gonna make it though. That's kind of my final word on them for this episode. I do not think that they are going to make it. Let's move to Brett and Ryan. Again, I was pretty bored this episode, particularly with them, because I don't see any real attraction like that. I do not think Ryan is into Brett. I think Brett is toying with the idea of being with Ryan. I do believe her when she says she has that crush, but I don't think Ryan is into her. I will say that I think he's trying though. So his first time in her apartment, he liked how cozy, and he liked kind of like her feng shui and her decor. And he said that her room was, what did he say? Calming. And so, you know, I could see like her, I thought her apartment was cute too. And then he met her dog, Baxter, I think. Baxter was super cute. Baxter was jumping off the walls. And I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about, but Google or YouTube this. Ryan literally goes, parkour. And y'all have to, it's not gonna have context. I might insert it, but these dudes are doing parkour and they're jumping off of things and they're going parkour, parkour, parkour. It's really funny. So I thought that was a really funny reference that he threw in there. And then we're gonna go to Brett going to Ryan's house. And right off the bat, she loved his dog. The dog was cute. It was like a big old teddy bear poodle. I don't know, it was really cute. And then they introduced the dogs, and it seemed like the dogs were gonna like each other. And that turned rather quickly, and that small little dog, Brett's dog, was very aggressive. It's always the little people, it's always the small people that you have to watch out for. And that really worried Brett. Ryan thought she was maybe making a bigger deal out of it than what it was, but I can see how you really want, you know, your husband's dog and your dog to get along. I get that. Ryan's house was nicer than I expected. It was really spacious. Yes, it was a bachelor pad, but like the actual house, not, you know, colors, not furniture. The actual house itself was nicer than what I expected. Brett made it to his room and saw the deer on a mantle on his wall, and she was understandably freaked out. But he did say that, hey, you know, I'll move it to the garage to make you comfortable. But I think this brings up something interesting. She doesn't have to like his hobbies, but you know, she is going to have to get comfortable with the fact that he is outdoorsy. He's a rancher, like he's just that type of guy. He hunts, you know. She doesn't have to like it, but I think she is going to have to accept these things for kind of what they are if she wants to stay married to him. Pastor Cal comes over. Oh yeah, Brett kind of had her hand awkwardly placed on Ryan's knee. And I haven't really seen them really kind of be touchy-touchy like that. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it was very awkward to me. And Pastor Cal asked, he was like, are y'all always like this? And they were like, yeah, of course. You guys are weird. Ryan basically said to Pastor Cal that Brett is one of the coolest girls he's ever met, and I instantly got friend zone vibes. Y'all, Ryan is not into Brett like that. He would probably be a great friend to her. I know he would totally be down to, like, you know, casually hook up, but I don't think he's into her like that. When Brett was talking to Pastor Cal, she said that Ryan makes her feel safe. Safe enough where she feels like she can relinquish control and kind of let him handle things. So I'm like, damn, Brett, like you're falling into, like you're kind of getting there. You're getting more comfortable, and this man ain't even into you like that. Like I said, I do think he's trying, so let me give him a chance and let the season play out. But he's not into her like that. Pastor Cal asked about affection, i.e. sex, and again, it got really awkward. Brett just basically said, you know, it's gonna happen when she is comfortable. She said she's getting there, she's just not there. And Ryan did say, you know, the whole sex thing was happening a bit slower than he would have anticipated in this situation. But, you know, he essentially said he was okay as long as things progressed. Brett said that she has a crush on Ryan. And you can kind of tell that she has a crush. And then Ryan kind of hit like a ditto thing. He didn't say that he had a crush on her. He didn't say that he liked her. He basically was like, yeah, ditto, and it's gonna get there. And so it's like, well, get where? And he said the L word, so was he talking about love or was he talking about like? I don't know. But I am over them for this episode at least. Maybe, you know, things will get better as the season kind of progresses. Now on to Gil and Myrla. It opens up with them going into their new shared apartment, and Gil was being really cute and he carried her across the entryway to their new apartment. And of course, Myrla thought that was corny. Of course she did. I'm actually surprised she liked the apartment. She liked the color layout. She liked the cabinets. She liked the countertops. And, you know, you could tell it was something that she would have for herself. And I was surprised. But it was a nice apartment. One thing I noticed, Gil he keeps calling her princess. And I don't know if y'all are noticing, but it's kind of passive aggressive. I think he has gotten to the point where he's over her shit. I think that patience that he's had, that I've praised him for episode after episode, is running thin. And this is going to be interesting. If she's like she is and he refuses to be patient, they are not going to get along at all. Because the only reason they're getting along is because Gil is patient. They cut to Gil visiting Myrla's house, and of course there are just pictures of her everywhere, which kind of add to the, you know, kind of running joke that she's high maintenance and self-centered. I don't know how much of a joke it is, but that's what I said. They kind of get to her closet, and Myrla has a lot of nice things, honey. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. As a single woman, like when she was a single woman, you work hard, honey, buy what you want. You work hard, play hard. We'll talk about how that fits into the marriage, but just objectively, like her being a single lady, honey, yes, there's nothing wrong with that. And so they kind of cut to her visiting Gil's place, and she immediately commented how things smelled like dog. And she immediately started, you know, talking junk about the dog when she saw the dog. She refused to really do too much with the dog. Myrla was like, absolutely not. But she did do the whole paw thing. She did do that. And she did say, you know, she's not into dogs, but because he loves his dog, it is something that she's going to have to compromise on. So I'm like, okay, we're kind of chipping away a little bit maybe. He showed her a painting of his dad, and he like told this really funny story, really cute funny story. And then Pastor Cal comes, and or it cuts to them being at their shared apartment, and Pastor Cal comes, and he asks them what they're worried about. And of course Gil goes, well, I think that she spends too much money. And of course, you know, Myrla doesn't think there's anything wrong with that. And to a certain extent, I agree. But Pastor Cal brought up a really good point with regards to them being married, not Myrla being single, but regards to their union. He said that, you know, she's definitely going to have to compromise when it comes to large purchases. Like if she wants to go out and spend $100, $150, of course you don't have to say anything to Gil. But if you're gonna make a major ticket purchase, something that is $1,000 and above, it's probably something that you want to be discussing with your husband, because you're not single anymore. It is two of you guys in a union trying to figure things out as one. And so I absolutely agreed with what he said there. And then Pastor Cal asked if they had kissed. You guys know, of course, they had not. And Pastor Cal, you know, he was really trying to get to the bottom of it. Like, well, is there sexual chemistry? And you could tell for Gil, absolutely. So eventually, Myrla wasn't saying anything. Eventually, Pastor Cal had to go, do you guys want to have sex? And it was like this long, awkward silence, which I'm sure was edited. And Myrla said, eventually, yes. Of course, Gil said yes, right? And so then Pastor Cal said, well, Myrla, do you think you can make it for the rest of the season, for the rest of the weeks without kissing Gil? And she said yes, not even a peck. She said yes. And Gil, I like that he stood up for himself, and he literally told her a boundary. He said, listen, if that happens, if we make it this whole season and we have not kissed, I will say I want a divorce on decision day. And I absolutely understand that. Like, it's kind of one of those things where I think it's reasonable to say, if you're not even gonna peck me, kiss me on the cheek, you know, give me a little rub every night, if you're not gonna do that, I do not think that you are attracted to me. And I think that's a reasonable assumption. It could be something else, right? It could be that she's really not comfortable. It could be. But think about it. Most of us regular people who aren't on TV, like on the second date, you kissing, you gonna give somebody a peck, you gonna do a little something, or even the third date. They've been living together for like 8 or 9 days at this point. So if you're not even doing a peck, like, are you really interested? And so I could feel Gil. So like, I could feel Gil on that. I really can. Like I said, I think his patience is running short, and I can't blame him, you know. And now let's move to Michaela and Zack. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do another episode on them to kind of break this down, because I am very perturbed with Michaela. So Zack drove back from, or he headed back from the honeymoon spot where he was quarantined to surprise Michaela. And their meeting was really cute, and it was like, oh, you missed me, I missed you, you know, that stuff. And they embrace, and she shows him around her apartment, and she shows him where she has gotten them a 10-day anniversary gift, and she shows him how she got a picture that they had taken framed, and that was really cute. I thought that was really tender and really sweet. And I think objectively she's a sweet girl. I will give her that. They showed up to their shared apartment together. Their dogs got along well. They had kind of sat down and had, you know, a bit of a kind of a conversation. And she did mention how they're both not as experienced in relationships, so they're really gonna have to work together to kind of figure it out. It came up, Zack was like, so are you the type of person to storm out when things get tough or when an argument gets heated? Do y'all know this girl said, no, I am not that type at all. I think that's abusive. That is abusive behavior. I would never do that. Y'all remember when she did that ish in like the second episode when she was talking to his parents and they asked like how she handled conflict and she gave this angelic response? She's working my nerves, y'all. She's working my nerves. After she went on that whole spiel about things being emotionally abusive, like that being emotionally abusive, to storm off and leave. Cut to the next morning. The camera shows Zack clearly waking up and walking out with his dog, right? So that's what we saw. We saw him getting up, walking out with his dog. We see her a little while later coming out of the room saying, Zack, you know, looking for Zack. She couldn't find him, and she proceeds to have a temper tantrum and an adult meltdown. She slams what was in her hands down, and she goes to her room and she packs her bag and she leaves. The exact thing that she said she wouldn't do. And so then let's cut to Pastor Cal coming to the house. And even before Pastor Cal got there, they had gotten into it because she was giving him the silent treatment. He was like, hey, what's up with you? She was like, nothing. And in her confessional, she was like, he had the nerve to ask me what was wrong. He knows what's wrong. Girl, no, he doesn't. Be an adult. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with people who also act like that? You know what's wrong? No, the person doesn't. You have to tell them. Unless they literally knock you upside your head, and I'm being funny, that's an awful example. But unless you had a slice of pizza in your hand and they knocked it out of your hand and you got mad, like clearly they know why you're mad. But in this situation, you guys didn't even have contact. So how would he know? And so she explains that, you know, where was he? You weren't there when I woke up. Where could you have been? You didn't go to the dog walkers. You didn't do and it was just this whole thing. It was so crazy. And so it essentially got to the point where she told him that it was on purpose. He had did that intentionally. And understandably, Zack looked so confused, like, girl, what are you talking about? Why would I do that on purpose? So he then begins to explain what happened, and she is still being so unreasonable. And this argument is just really getting to like a fever pitch. It's just boiling and boiling and boiling. He asked her, so that's why you're mad. That's why you left. That's why you left the house. And she was like, yeah. And he was like, but didn't you just say that that was abusive? And I was like, yeah, Zack. Did she just say that? Y'all, she was cussing him out and everything. He was like, no, I was here. I fell asleep with the dog. And then I walked out and I took my dog to so-and-so. And she was like, you a fucking lie. You a da-da-da. She was cussing him out. And I'm like, girl, it is not that serious. Something's wrong with you. You have issues. You have clear baggage. And instead of you marching your tail on that show and signing up to get married, you should have been working with a licensed professional to figure out why you get so angry so quickly. and why you react that way, why you don't trust him when he says something. So Pastor Cal comes, and you could clearly see tension when he gets there. Like, you can cut the tension with a knife. Oh, I'm lying. So yeah, she was being completely unreasonable. She's cussing him out. And Zack goes, I'm not talking about this anymore. I'm done. I have said my piece. I am done. And around that time, Pastor Cal comes. And at that point, you could just cut the tension with a knife. The silence was deafening. And so Pastor Cal was like, well, what's going on? And she said, they managed to match her with a dynamic, strong, stubborn, something person. Pastor Cal goes, you mean like you? We managed to match you up with somebody like you? And Zack is pissed, and understandably so, right? He's pissed because it's clear that the girl doesn't trust him, and all the heck he did was wait. He fell asleep. Well, the poor guy fell asleep in the wrong daggum room, and then went out and took his dog, and he didn't say anything. Could he have said something? Absolutely, absolutely. And I understand being irritated with that. I'm not going, rag on her for that. Absolutely. But did it require that response? No, it did not, girl. It was like so over the top. And so she's just basically like, well, how can I trust you? I can't trust anything that you're saying. And Pastor Cal essentially steps in, and he's like, well, what's going on? And she pulls the cop out, right? She pulls the tears. And she brings up her dad passing and how her dad was her protector, and how she just doesn't feel protected, and how she just doesn't know if she could trust him, right? And he even tried to reach out to comfort her, and she snatched her hand back. She recoiled. And so understandably, he was like, well, F this. But basically, she said the whole dad thing. Listen, my dad passed in a very traumatic way. But I do not take that out on my loved ones. I don't make them pay for that. In the other video that I make, I think I'm going to kind of break down what I think is happening with her. But at the end of the day, her behavior is emotionally abusive. It is incredibly toxic. And if you are someone who overreacts like that, and you find yourself flying off the deep end for little things, you find yourself losing your temper for little things, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, you need professional help, right? You need someone to help you figure out your triggers. You need someone to help you, once you figured out your triggers, how to deal with your triggers. And you need someone to help you walk through life being an even and balanced human being who is able to communicate and effectively express their emotions. Michaela is not that. I think it was incredibly awful how she treated Zack. And I, for one, if it were me, I would not stand for it. And I could see how if after this Zack completely checks out, I don't think he will, but I could see how he could. Because you know what? You're not going to talk to me that way, and you won't abuse me in that way. Especially if we just got married and this abusive behavior jumps out. This is exactly who you are. So that's all I'll say for right now with her. But just know I was incredibly disgusted. I know that she could do better, and she needs help. She needs to seek that out. Like I said, instead of running down and getting married, girl, you should have been sitting in a therapist chair. And listen, it's not the pot calling the kettle black. And I do the same thing. I've done the same thing. You need to handle your ish. Nobody else is responsible for handling your ish. You are. Handle it, and then come back as a healthy person. I'm done. I said I ain't gonna preach. That'll be for the next video. And so for the next episode, there wasn't really much. I didn't even really write down much of anything. I hope we get more into Zack and Michaela. I hope we get more into Bao and Johnny. I hope we get more into Rachel and Jose. And I hope things kind of keep rolling, because it seems like things are trending up now with regards to the drama. I know that sounds awful, but it is a TV show after all. And so, you know, if you guys have made it with me this far, thank you so much for watching. Be on the lookout for my Zack and Michaela video. And I will catch you all in the next video. Thank you so much. You know, maybe consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. You know, talk to me down below. How do you feel about Michaela? How do you feel about Zack? How do you feel about Myrla? Please let me know. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye.